YouTube at the Mind of Marsal YouTube channel there. Any questions, any topics, anything you want me to discuss on the podcast, you can email that to at mindofmarsal@gmail.com, and I'll make sure to answer those questions here on the podcast. It is Friday. It is Halloween. We are not tricking. We are treating here. And with me, as he is every Friday, is my guy, Chris Rose. How's it going, brother?
What up, man? How's it going?
Going good, man. Happy Halloween.
Halloween.
You going out trick or treating tonight? Are you doing the trick or treating with the kids?
No, you know what? Over the last couple years, and this is probably a bad take, I have not really enjoyed Halloween. I was spending so much money on costumes and whatnot, and I'm just like, you know what? If anybody knows, I'm divorced, so I gave that holiday to my ex-wife to go out with my kids, and I just kind of relax and hand out candy if I have to. So I save money, a lot of money, probably $250 every time Halloween comes around. So it's been and having three kids that want to go out and want to do get all these like $50 to $75 costumes. I've saved quite a bit.
I was actually very lucky this year. My son, for whatever reason, he's like, I just want to be the same thing I was last year. I'm like, all right, no costume for you. And my daughter, like, she's very creative, she's very artistic and stuff. So she wanted to be Luigi, but she did the the outfit for the most part for herself. We just ordered the hat and stuff. So it wasn't economical Halloween without question. But like you said, yeah, it does get pricey. We will be out there. We will be trick or treating. We also do the Friday pizza. I don't know. Papa John's has that Jack o' Lantern pizza. We will be ordering some of that. That's always a yearly tradition for us. You said you're going to be handing out candy. Let's be honest, Chris. Do you hand out the good stuff, or do you hand out that the cheap stuff? It's all right if you would say the cheap stuff, but what are we handing out at the Rose household there?
All right, so a couple years ago in my other neighborhood, it was more like it was the cheap stuff. Now that I'm in an HOA, if I'm not handing out like king size bars or full size candy bars, I'm going to be judged. So I had to go out and go to Sam's and Costco and buy the full size candy bars because I don't want to be judged by anyone in this HOA.
I love it. Yeah, the way I view it is like whatever's left over, it's gonna stay at my house. I'm not
Yeah.
huge on eating sweets, if we're being honest. I'm not a big sweets guy. I prefer eating a steak. I prefer eating, a slice of pizza. I prefer eating any of that stuff. But I do think of it as like whatever does not, is not given away to the kids is staying at the house. So you might want to pick on it. So I try to buy the good stuff. So we got some we usually get like M&Ms, like the Hershey's, the Kit Kats, things like that. Things that if there's any leftovers, I don't mind eating there, Chris. But I'm sure people are not tuning in to hear our Halloween takes. For those going out trick or treating out there today, make sure you're safe, have fun, and enjoy your evening. Chris, what we do every week, we break down Thursday night. We see what our takeaways from Thursday night football. Was not a great game this week. We also talk about the upcoming week. We're heading into week 9. We're going to discuss the main slate. We're going to give some survivor picks. We're going to give some bets at the end of the show, breaking down the entire slate's matchups. We like everything here. So lots of content to cover. I did not catch the entire Dolphin game. I watched some of it on replay, and quite frankly, look, this team sucks. Like at the end of the day, this team is awful. I thought last week's win was just a 1 week wonder there against the Falcons. They showed their true colors here against Baltimore this weekend. What are your takeaways from this game, man? Because I was happy to see Lamar Jackson back. He looks good. One thing that stood out to me, dude, was he just slows the game down, right? Like you watch Lamar Jackson play football, and it feels like at times you're watching the game in slow motion. The way he moves, how good this guy is. Like he's known for his rushing ability, but man, he's a fucking phenomenal passer as well, dude. He makes the game look so easy at times. I know he played the Dolphins defense, which really, helps any player. But man, it was good to see him back. I I actually think this Baltimore Ravens team still has a very good chance to win their division. When you look at this division, they're getting healthier. Their defense is getting healthier. Everyone's getting healthier. They're looking like that team that we were expecting. Um, I think that's here to stay, man. So, what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so I had a lot of friends who went to this game, and I have a couple friends that actually work for the Miami Dolphins who had high expectations for this game, especially Lamar coming back and from injury. But I don't know if you know, but Lamar coming back home, being a Boynton Beach guy, lots of family at this game. including last night, 2019, 2021, and 2025, he's played down here in Miami. He has 10 touchdowns to one interception over that time, which is absolutely absurd. He's thrown for 324, 238, and 204 last night. He plays his best games in front of his family down here. You know, it's an hour, maybe 45 minutes from where he played in high school. Kind of knew, kind of expected it just with how good he is. And you're right. I mean, he just with his rushing ability, it kind of slows the game down, and they just seem like such a great tempo offense. Derrick Henry went over 100 yards again. It's scary because it looks like he's starting to roll a little bit. Scored touchdown, two touchdowns last week. And again, guys like Zay Flowers just efficient, 5 catches, 64 yards. On the other side, the Dolphins suck, but there is some fantasy relevance here with Jalen Waddle getting nine. What do you have? 9 catches last week, or 9 targets. So he had put up 14 fantasy points. Achan's going to put up 15 or more. I do think there's some fantasy relevance, but I think this Miami team's completely out of it. Just got, I think there was a report just now that McDaniel's going to stay, or he's going to be there for the rest of the year. So kind of surprising that they're not going to fire him, considering how bad they've been. But I think his time is limited.
Yeah, from a fantasy perspective, you definitely can get Waddle and HN in your lineups each and every week simply out of volume, right? Like, given the volume that you see there, given the opportunities that they're getting there, I fully expect, them to be fantasy relevant moving forward. For me, it's just a matter of like this team is done. Like the Tua experiment, I hope it's officially over for Miami. We will say this. There was reported this was before, like about maybe 30, 45 minutes before you and I jumped on, but um it looks like, Greer right now is in the hot seat, right? Like it looks like when you look at it, they're in the hot seat right now. And you look at Greer and they're parting ways, right? He was in the hot seat and they're parting ways. Him and the Miami Dolphins are parting ways. They agreed to it this morning. That was reported by Adam Schefter there. Um, that I think was inevitable, man. The GM, he's been there since what, 2000, and this has been a shit show since, right? Like Miami has been a shit show since. So the fact that he agreed to part ways there with Miami, that's huge for the team. I think you're going to see a new era here in Miami. That's without question. On the other side, you mentioned Derrick Henry rushing for over 100 yards. Look, this is a Dolphins defense that we continue to target with running backs. Yes, he didn't he didn't set the world on fire with his performance yesterday. But he still went over 100 yards. He didn't have a ton of opportunities like we used to see. He did really well on a yards per carry basis. So yeah, man, this team is getting hot at the right moment, right? Like the Ravens are starting to get hot at the right moment. They're starting to get healthy. And I think they're just going to be a tough team moving forward here. So their record doesn't resemble what kind of team they are. So my thoughts on that right there. Chris, week 9, we have 11 games on the main slate. Like we do each and every week, we're going to go position by position. But before we jump into that, your overall thoughts on this slate, this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, this slate's a little interesting for me. I think the quarterback article was easy to write just because there's not a ton of guys that I really love this week. So it was a little bit easier for me to write it. It's more so some of the high price plays where I'm trying to figure out where I want to go. Taking the L last week on Jonathan Taylor, I said he was probably the guy that I'm fading, and ripped off what a 80-yard touchdown in the second half of the game. So another 3 touchdown performance. That's 3 in his last 4 games. It's just absolutely insane considering he did it on 12 carries and put up 40 DK points. So I think at this point, take salary aside with Jonathan Taylor and just play him no matter what. He's matchup proof. And then again, going down the line, there's a lot of guys that are in really good spots that are priced up, especially at the wide receiver position. This is a tough week. I think you got to find some value, and you got to stick with some value options that you're probably not going to love. So it's going to be a tough week. Definitely not as straightforward as it was last week.
Yeah, last week I was profitable, but it could have been a much bigger day. I got a little too cute with my roster construction. I ended up going with a 2 tight end build. That didn't work out as I was hoping for. I think going right back to the basics this week, like I'm gonna go with a balanced approach. I agree with you as far as Jonathan Taylor. Like he's a player that I think, regardless of matchup, regardless of situation, you're starting each and every week. And season long, he's in every week. Like there's no reason like you move him out of your lineup, right? But in DFS, when we're taking price into consideration, you do have to factor that in. But like you said, even at 9,800 on DraftKings, he is someone you have to consider. You just can't write him off. I personally don't know if I'm going to play him this week. We'll talk about that when we get to the running back position. But I will say this, I do think that he is matchup proof, like you said. He is the most reliable option in the game right now. The volume has been there, the production has been there. There's just he checks off pretty much every box. The only argument you can make for him is that he's expensive as shit. Like that's it. Like really it. This week's matchup is not ideal. We'll talk about that, but I'm going with a balanced approach. I like the idea of this might be a week, and I don't normally do this, but this might be a week where I do pay up at tight end. Um, this week, and it's gonna be business as usual, right? I'm not gonna try to get cute. Like you said this, I think a couple of weeks ago, you said I'm going to go back to the basics and not trying to get too cute and not trying to get fancy, not trying to outthink everyone else, right? Because I think we make that mistake, right? As players and as analysts, we start to
Yeah.
try to outthink everyone else that we leave the basics, and sometimes that leads to mistakes. So not that you can't think outside the box, because I absolutely love to think outside the box. I know you do as well, but you don't have to think outside the box and then outside that box, right? Like just think outside the box. That's all you need to do. So that would be my advice this week. I'm going back to the basics. I'm going to exploit matchups I love, and I'm not going to try to outthink everyone else. I'm just going to play my guys and let others make that mistake. And that's going to be my approach this week. Um, Let's jump right into it, Chris. Let's jump into the quarterback position. You wrote the quarterback coach article there at fantasyguru.com. Before we jump into it, everyone, by the way, we have a promotion going on until Monday. It's Ghost 20. Ghost 20. Get you 20% off any of our subscriptions, anything on the site, 20% off using promo code GHOST20. If you have any issues with that, reach out to customer support, tell them I sent you, and they will take care of you there. Chris, back to the quarterbacks here. You wrote the quarterback coach there. Talk to me about this week, how you're approaching. Are you paying up? Are you paying down? Is there someone you are locked in on? Are there a couple guys? Let me know where you're at.
A couple high price guys that kind of make sense. Number one being Patrick Mahomes. Just, I mean, he's just going to continue to be the best quarterback in the NFL over the next couple of weeks with a full set of healthy backs. Another thing is Isaiah Pacheco expected to be out, I think, this week, so it's going to be even more through the passing game. Guys like Rashee Rice. Another guy that I really like here is Justin Herbert. Just a good spot against a Tennessee defense that hasn't been great, giving up almost an 80% completion rate against quarterbacks over the last 4 games. We've seen what Herbert's done over the last 2 games. He's got 6 touchdowns, over 400 yards against Indianapolis two weeks ago. Looked great against Minnesota with the 3 touchdowns last week. So I like him a lot as a high price guy. I'm fine with either one of those guys, especially in high dollar GPPs. And then the guy that just has probably the best matchup on the slate, Jonathan Taylor's teammate, Daniel Jones. I want to, I think he's probably the best cash game option. I think he has that solid 20-point floor. Does he have the upside? I think it's limited because of the aspect that Jonathan Taylor has brought to this run game. And the price tag is actually is great for Daniel Jones. That being said, there's 2 guys that I like probably just as much. One being Caleb Williams. I'm going right back to Caleb Williams. I don't care. This is a Cincinnati defense that hasn't been great, giving up almost 3 passing touchdowns per game, 76% completion rate over the last 4 games. I just think it's a get right spot for Caleb Williams. I said it with Bo Nix a couple weeks ago where he absolutely went off for 40 DK points. I think this is a spot where Caleb goes for 30. And then the guy that rookie dog that I think that's going to put this team on his back, Jackson Dart at 5,200, just a really good spot for him against a defense that's ranked 27th in the league, giving up 22 fantasy points per game, 2 quarterbacks over their last 4 games, over 300 passing yards. I love Jackson Dart at home. He's like a must start for me.
Yeah, so we're pretty much in lockstep, you and I, this week. I absolutely love Patrick Mahomes, like you mentioned. He's playing like the Patrick Mahomes that we were used to seeing, we got accustomed to seeing. Giving you, I mean, an incredible ceiling, one of the safest floors in the game. I mean, he's 23 plus fantasy points in all but one game this season. They're on DraftKings. Has 30 plus fantasy points in two of his last four games and just has the luxury of getting Rashi Rice back. He has at least three touchdown passes in three straight games and in four of his last five games. So playing some really good football here, Patrick Mahomes. He's rushed for four rush touchdowns this year, so he's showing that rushing element. He's not a run first quarterback, we know that, but he has that element in his game, right? He's still not the most expensive quarterback this week, so checking off a lot of the boxes here for me as well. Like you said, Justin Herbert, I'm going to echo everything you said. This is a Titans defense that just flat out suck. This is a team that has been passing more than we've anticipated here. I like going to Justin Herbert if you're paying up at 6,800. I still think he's reasonably priced given what he brings to the table. So I'm in lockstep with you there. Daniel Jones, dude. Listen, I feel like I talk about Daniel Jones each and every week right now. His price does not move. Like it's kind of stagnant. It's insane, right? You look at what the you look at what he's done, safe floor like you mentioned. Nice upside. Yes, it's not an incredibly high ceiling, but nice upside. Fair price. He has 20 plus fantasy points in three straight games and has done it in all but three games this season. You look at the matchup at hand here against the Steelers. They've given up the fifth most passing yards on the season, but they're giving up the most passing yards per game. Remember, they already had a bye week. 12th most passing touchdown, 68% completion rate, 18th in pass DVOA, 26th in coverage, second most fantasy points per game allowed to the position. Daniel Jones is a player that can run the football too. He has those wheels that we know. He has his role in the red zone. The Colts are they're averaging the most scoring attempts per game inside the red zone right now. So there's going to be that kind of touchdown upside. Yes, Jonathan Taylor's there. Yes, they're going to utilize him in the red zone. Yes, he leads the NFL in red zone rush attempts. But Daniel Jones is still very much involved as a runner in the red zone. I think Daniel Jones is a slam dunk play this week. I absolutely love him. For me, he's someone that I right now he is my top QB on my board. Like I like Patrick Mahomes, I like Herbert, but when we're taking price, we're taking everything into consideration this week. Daniel Jones is that guy that I'm prioritizing in DFS this week. Another guy that really stands out to me this week, Chris, and I want to hear your thoughts on him. And Matthew Stafford. I understand that this is a matchup where the Rams can run, right? But Stafford has been very good. He's top 27 fantasy points in three of his last four games, fresh out of the bye week here. The Saints ranked 31st in pass rush. They're 28th in pass DVOA. They've given up the seventh most passing touchdown, tied for seventh most passing touchdown. They're not giving up a ton of yardage, but they've also allowed the ninth fewest pass attempts against, right? They're giving up a 67 percent completion rate there and 14th in fantasy points per game there. So I mean, I like the matchup for Stafford. You have Nick Cool, you have Adams, you Kyron Williams can catch passes to the backfield. This is a game where even if he throws for 250 yards and three touchdowns, he's going to return value there, and that's very feasible outcome here for him. No one's going to be on him. The difference between him and some of these other guys is just there's no rushing element to his game. But I truly like this spot for him. I think in GPPs, if you're trying to get, a little bit different, he's someone that makes some sense here because this is a really good matchup. He's playing good football, and you have a healthy group of receivers. Any thoughts on Stafford here this week?
Yeah, 12 touchdowns, no interceptions, 113 QBR over the last four games. Doing it the last 2 weeks without Puka, who went down in that Baltimore game. Pretty impressive doing it against Jacksonville, who's been relatively good against the pass this year. Five touchdowns. So yeah, I get it. 6,300. Nice bump with Puka back saying that he's going to play this week. I think that news came out relatively recent when it come back. Yeah, it came out today that he's playing. So I think that's why I had some reserves on Stafford, but I would definitely add him to my player pool with that news that Puka's back and the fact that Travis Hunter is put on IR.
Yeah. And you look, I'm with you with Caleb Williams, man. Like he looked like absolute trash last week, right? And he's been very hit or miss, but this is a really bad Bengals defense. This is a Bengals defense we've been targeting all season long. I don't know if I'm going to get to Caleb Williams, but without question, I will be invested in the Chicago Bears offense to some capacity this weekend. Like that's how I'm going to approach it. I don't know exactly how many lineups I'm doing and whatnot, so I don't know if I'm going to get to Williams. And I couldn't agree more with you with Jackson Dart. You have, a 49ers defense that they're 25th in pass DVOA. They're dealing with some injuries there. Obviously they lost Fred Warner. That's a big loss to that defensive unit there. And bro, Dart has been just from a football perspective, it hasn't been great at all times. But from a fantasy perspective, the floor is solidified. That rushing element, the rushing upside, he is a very good fantasy quarterback. I think he's a very good NFL quarterback too, and I think the future's super bright for the Giants. But he's been producing at a very high level for you, from a fantasy standpoint. And you look at the price tag, and it's still very, very affordable at 5,200, man. So I mean, you're talking about like just for perspective, ladies and gentlemen, Bryce Young is currently priced higher than Jackson Dart. Like Aaron Rodgers is currently priced higher than Jackson Dart. Like, I don't know, man. I'd rather play Dart. Um, given that rushing element there. Any other quarterbacks here? Like, are you in on your boy McCarthy returning, or are you kind of taking the wait and see approach? He's 4,900 in a
Yeah.
game where you expect him to be chasing points here.
Yeah. So I just want to make mention. I said with Travis Hunter being out, I was looking at their last game. Travis Hunter for the Jaguars, they're not playing. So I just want to clarify that. Um, when I was talking about Stafford, but JJ McCarthy at 4,900. It's a kind of a wait and see. This is the first time all year that Minnesota has played with all of their weapons. You got to remember the first three games. Addison was out. Aaron Jones was out. Going to be interesting. I do think that he's going to be better than he was in the Atlanta game, but how much better? Narrative going back to Detroit and Arbor's close to Detroit. He's probably going to have a lot of friends and family going to this game in Detroit. So it's a wait and see.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, man. I like this young man. I think he's going to be just fine at this level. Um, but I am taking the wait and see approach. It's just not the slate for me, right? Like it's just not the slate for me. If you're doing the afternoon, the early slate only, and you want to get cute, you want to get creative, sure, by all means. But again, it's not the slate for me to take that kind of chance this upcoming week. Anything else at the quarterback position?
No,
All right, let's jump right into the running backs. And you mentioned Jonathan Taylor. So Jonathan Taylor is the most expensive running back here by a wide margin. He's 9,800. The next man up is Christian McCaffrey, 8,800, followed by Bijan Robinson, 8,700, then Jameer Gibbs at 8K. I'm going to say this first. I'm going to be the first one here. I apologize for Bijan Robinson last week against Miami. He shit the bed. It was a great spot. Um, I just don't understand what the fuck they were doing. Like, how does he have 9 rush attempts like against Miami? Like that doesn't make any damn sense, right?
no.
Um, Still, no excuses. He shit the bed. He should have ran wild against that team. Um, where are you at here? I know you mentioned John Taylor's always a play. There are only 2 guys here that I'm strongly looking at. I'm not, you could say, oh, all of these guys are in play. Yes, all of them are in play for sure. But Christian McCaffrey for me and Jameer Gibbs are the 2 guys that really stand out in this price range for me, Chris. Any of these guys interest you?
I think Jameer Gibbs, Minnesota cannot stop the run at all. They struggle in the middle of the field. Ivan Pace, who has been the starting middle linebacker for the Vikings since last year, has the highest missed tackle rate in the NFL. That's why he was benched over the last 2 games. This Vikings defense cannot stop anybody on the ground. I think at 8K, definitely fair price. Has had some good games. Go back to last week. Last year he had 4 touchdowns in Minnesota in Week 18. So he had some big games. Week 1 last year went for 116 and 2 touchdowns. So I like him price wise. I like him the best on the slate. McCaffrey, I think at 8,800, absolute fantastic price against the Giants. Where I think the Giants going to score against the San Francisco defense. So that should be a back and forth game. Should probably see 10 targets out of the backfield there. So the price, look at salary wise, I would probably rank Jameer Gibbs 1, McCaffrey 2, Taylor 3 because I do like the passing game a little bit more than Bijan kind of fallen. I don't love Bijan against this New England defense.
Yeah, so I have them ranked really similar. I have Christian McCaffrey 1, Jameer Gibbs 2, and then Taylor and Bijan. To echo what you're saying, like this is the thing. You and I talked about this before. Like the problem is not that the Vikings are good against the run, it's that people abandon the run quickly against the Vikings. Like
Yeah.
they just give up on the run. We saw a difference last week when people didn't abandon the run and what you're capable of doing against this run defense firsthand. Um, So I agree with you. I think Jameer Gibbs is in a smash spot at 8K. I absolutely love him. But for me, man, I look at Christian McCaffrey. After a terrible performance last week, I looked at this as a complete bounce back spot. You look at Giants, they're 31st in rush DVOA, 30th in rush defense, 22nd in tackling. They've given up the fourth most rushing yards, a league high 6.1 yards per carry, 10th most rushing touchdowns, tied for that. Top seven in fantasy points per game allowed, top 10 in receptions allowed, an 80% catch rate. CMC is averaging an insane 26.8 opportunities per game. Tied for the most red zone opportunities. If there's any bounce back spot, it's this one here for Christian McCaffrey. Um, he was not someone on our board last week. I remember, I don't know if you recall, he was not someone on our board last week. For me, he's very much in play this week, and someone that if I could fit in, I said I'm going to go with a balanced approach, and I think I could fit him in. Right now, I do have him in my lineup. I'm going to prioritize him this week, right? I do view him as a priority play this week because I just anticipate a big bounce back spot. We know the floor is high, we know the ceiling is high, and he's sub 9K. At the end of the day, it sounds silly that that's something. That he's still expensive. Yeah, he's still expensive, but he's sub 9K. A running back of his caliber should not be sub 9K. It's 9K or high. Like that's for me. So for me, I absolutely love this spot for McCaffrey. I think this is a great bounce back spot here for him. And you talk about, usage when he only has 14 or 15 opportunities. You're like, damn, that's terrible. You're used to see him getting 30. That's the problem. So McCaffrey, to me, my top running back on the board this week, without question, Chris. Once we start going a little bit lower, so we got Josh Jacobs, James Cook, Kyron Williams, Eshin Genti, Kimani Vidal, DeAndre Swift, and J.K. Dobbins between that 6 and 8K range. Any of these guys popping out at you? I have a few here in this range that I like quite a bit.
So I think for me, it's kind of strange how this is going for me because the guy that I like the most here, what I never thought I would, is Kamani Badal. I like him the most at 6,300 against a Tennessee defense that hasn't been great. Giving up over 122 rushing yards over the last four. I like him the most. Probably going to be over the field with him. I just think he's been fantastic. Two rushing touchdowns, or 2 games over 100 over his last three. Um, and then aside of that, I like DeAndre Swift. There's not a ton of guys that I like from like the 6K to James Cook. Like James Cook is completely out for me. I know he had a monster game. Even I think it was Tyler Beaker who said that was his pivot. We should have pivoted to him off of Bijan. But there's not a ton of guys I love in this range at all.
Yeah, Tyler Beaker did pivot to him. He texted me because he and I had talked about it, and we talked about it on his Friday show as well. I think you and I talked about him here on the show on
Yep.
the podcast last week, and we talked about it for sure on Sunday morning. Uh, but James Cook was somebody that was really standing out to us. It was just a matter of I was unable to fit him in. Like that's what it was for me. But I absolutely loved it. I wish I would have gone with my gut there and played him. I just didn't. For me, I'll be honest, Chris. This is a fruitful range of running backs for me. You mentioned Kimani Vidal. Let's start with him. For me,
But
I think he's in a great spot. Tennessee has allowed the second most rushing yards. They've given up a league high 12 rushing touchdowns, 5.1 yards per carry, 24 fantasy points per game in all scoring setting, which is second most, 28th in rush DVOA, 21st in rush defense. Vidal has stepped in and taking over that every down role for the Chargers here with Hampton's injury. He has no less than 14 opportunities in each of his last 3 games, including 22 or more in 2 of those contests. Now, Tennessee's defense has faced Jonathan Taylor multiple times this season, right? So, like, I think what
there's
five
six
five of
touchdowns.
those, yeah,
Yeah.
5 of those 12 rushing touchdowns are Jonathan Taylor's doing. So let's keep that in mind. That said, this defense still sucks. Like, and then this is an offense that's going to be playing with I think, a hefty lead here, which is going to give Vidal plenty of opportunities. They're going to lean on him once they get a hefty lead here. So I love that call quite a bit. DeAndre Swift, for me, he's going to be a building block for me. So long as he plays, he's dealing with the injury. I think he's gonna play with the injury, but just so long as he plays, I think DeAndre Swift is in a prime spot. I said I was gonna get exposure to this offense. This is exactly how I think I'm gonna do it. The Bengals have surrendered the most rushing yards to running backs, 5.3 yards per carry. The third most rushing touchdowns tied. Third most receptions tied. Third most receiving yards. Most receiving touchdowns tied, most fantasy points per game, yielding over 28 fantasy points per game in every single scoring format. 29th in rush DVOA, 31st in rush defense, 27th in tackling. You look at Swift's role, he's averaging 17.7 opportunities per game, including an 11% target share. He has 15 plus DK points in four straight games, including 20 plus in two of those contests. The price is right. He stands out as one of the best point per dollar plays at the running back position for me. Someone who I think should be a staple of your lineup, so long as he's out there giving it a go, right? Like we just have to keep monitoring news, monitor practice, and stuff like that. You'll get that by the end of the day, and you should have a great idea. Another running back in this range I think is interesting, and we talked about this quarterback. The quarterback of this offense is Kyron Williams. The Saints have allowed the seventh most rushing yards at 20 plus fantasy points per game, 20th in rush DVOA, 31st in tackling. I think in GPPs, Williams makes a lot of sense. I think his ceiling is enormous. Has he been volatile at times this season? Sure. But the volume is there, the opportunities are there. And we know that the Rams are a good offense, and we know where the football is going in this offense. And he's one of the big three that they have. So for me, I think he's firmly in play in this range. So I actually think it's a very fruitful range there quite a bit. And then honorable mention, Josh Jacobs. He's always going to be someone we talk about, but I'm just not prioritizing him because obviously I just mentioned three guys I really like, and then the fourth, Christian McCaffrey. Those are my top four running backs on my board when taking everything into account. So Jacobs doesn't fit that range for me. But again, if you're running, 20 lineups or 10 plus lineups, including Jacobs in your player pool is not a bad idea here. We saw firsthand what you can do against this Panthers run defense last week with James Cook. So keep that in mind there. Chris, let's look at sub 6K running backs. For me, there's only a couple of guys that I'm interested in, not many. Chase Brown at 5,900 against the Bears. I think he's interesting. Not someone I'm prioritizing by any means. I wanted to pick your brain on Tyron Tracy Jr. now that there's no Cam Skadaboo. We know that the opportunities are going to be there. We know he's a dual threat running back where he can catch passes in the backfield. Um, I think he's interesting in tournaments if you're really trying to save money. And then keep an eye on Ramondre Stevenson's status, ladies and gentlemen. Because if he is out, I mean, we have to hit the lock button on Travion Henderson at 4,900, in my opinion. But it's very important to monitor news there. But those are the three sub 6K guys that I'm looking at here, Chris. Any of those guys interest you? And if not, anyone else you're looking at in this range?
Yeah, Chase Brown definitely in this matchup. I think look at what he did last week. Looked great. His first like real good game on the season. So I like him there, 5,900, 100% right. Stevenson's still not at practice, and as of today, it doesn't look like he's going to play. So you're 100% right. If he's out, Henderson looked pretty good last week, 7.5 yards per carry. So I think if Stevenson's out, 100% you lock in Travion Henderson in a really good spot there against Atlanta, who's actually given up the third most fantasy points to running backs over the last three games at 31 fantasy points per game. So I like that spot. And then I think Tyrone Tracy, going back to last year, he was a guy that we spoke about a lot last year. And you mentioned with the dual threat capabilities. The Niners given up 6 receptions, over 50 receiving yards, 2 running backs over their last 4 games. So it does fit the mold well for a guy like Tracy. We like Jackson Dart. We like him out of the backfield. I like the spot, the price tag for Tracy.
Yeah, and we talked about Chase Brown last week. Like he was someone we
Yeah.
discussed in depth. And I will say this: if Joe Flacco is not playing, I'm out on Chase Brown. I will be very honest. Like I am out on Chase Brown if Joe Flacco is not playing. That offense is very different with and without Joe Flacco. Like Jake Browning is just obviously that it wasn't working with Jake Browning, right? So if Flacco's out, I'm gonna be less excited about this offense if we're being 100% honest. But I will say, look, Trayvon Henderson, you mentioned he looked really good last week. He did. He has looked good at times throughout the season. He's looked better than Stevenson at times throughout the season with that limited role. He's someone I've recommended, Chris, in every single season long league. Like, continue to stash this guy. Continue to stash this guy because he's one injury away from change, like potentially, being a league winner for some fantasy managers here. So I'm holding him in season long, ladies and gentlemen. Do not drop him. All right, Chris, anyone else here at the running back position that you want to discuss?
No.
All right, let's jump to the wide receiver position, and we have some big and heavy hitters on this slate this week. And Puka Nacua, the most expensive one of all, at 8,500, followed by Jamar Chase, 8,400. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8,300. Your boy Justin Jefferson, 7,800. Rashi Rice, baby, his price has significantly gone up, 7,600 there. And then Devontae Adams, 7,500, with Nico Collins, 7,100. Those are the only receivers at 7K and up there. Where are you at with this range, Chris? Anyone popping at for you? Anyone a must have this week? Where are you at here?
I don't really have any must-haves. I do think there's a lot of guys that I really like this week. One being Rasheed Rice. His price tag is absurd, though. That's my only reserve on Rasheed Rice. If he was in the 6Ks, I would say lock button, move on. Um, so I think he's probably be the highest scoring. I just Mahomes and would just have such a great chemistry. I think Puka Nacua, he's 8,500. Let's see what he does coming back from that injury. I'm completely off on Jamar Chase this week. I just don't, the targets are going to be there. It's just insane how many targets this dude gets. But I'm off on him this week. I don't know if I'm going to get to anyone here from 7,100 on up. From Nico Collins to Puka Nacua, probably not getting to any one of these guys. I like some of the expensive running backs. Now, if some value opens up for some reason, like Henderson starts, I think you kind of go to some guys like maybe like Amon Ra against a Vikings defense that has been great. You mentioned several times. Um, I just there's no one that really stands out in this high price.
Yeah, for me, Puka Nacua is firmly in play. I like him here. We talked about if this is okay, so I'm probably gonna only do that with Ram stacks. Like
Yep.
I don't know if I'm gonna one off Nacua this week, because if I'm not playing the Ram stacks, I'm probably gonna have CMC. But again, I haven't finalized my lineup, but I do think Nacua's. I mean, look, what he's been able to do this season is just incredible. His floor is significant. When you look at weeks 1 through 5 when he was healthy. Over 20 fantasy points per game in each of those games, like over 24 to be exact, over on DK there. So he's having a great year. We know the football's going in his direction. We know that Stafford locks in on him. So the matchup against the Saints is one that we can exploit here. So it is a good spot for him. Jamar Chase, like for me, it's Flacco playing or not. It's very simple. If Flacco plays, Chase is in play, dude. Like he's fucking lighting up every defense with Flacco there. The amount of targets I want to say it's 65. Don't quote me on that. But the amount of targets he's had over the last, 4 games. So he has 10, 12. That's 22 plus 23, 45 plus 19. 64 damn targets in 4 freaking games, dude. And he has 4 touchdowns, over 90 receiving yards in every game. He is right now the best receiver in football right this minute. Like he's playing like the best receiver in football over the last month and it's sheer volume. Like it's sheer volume. He has 10 receptions or more in each of his last 3 games. So yes, if Flacco's in against the Bears, we're playing Chase. Their secondary's banged up there. I agree with you. St. Brown's firmly in play too. Rashi Rice, dude. I absolutely love Rashi Rice. But look at his price increments. It started at 5,600. Then it went to 6,600. Now we're at 7,600. Like it's increments of 1,000. Usually it happens in hundreds, ladies and gentlemen. Like it usually happens in a couple hundred. That is how well this guy's playing. Since he returned like from his 6 game suspension, 19 targets, 16 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 135 receiving yards. Guess what, Chris? I did a red zone review. He has 6 red zone targets, right? The leader on this team is Marquise Brown at 8. Rice has only played 2 games. It's insane. His role in the red zone is significant. I think this is going to be a really good game. If I'm paying up here for him, I'm okay with that, man. I know it's pricey, but he's just like the volume, the opportunities. He's an elite wide receiver, and he has one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in football throwing him the football. So I'm firmly play. But like you, none of these guys are absolute priorities for me this week. Are they in play? Sure. If they fit, sure. If I had to rank, these guys here, it would probably be Rice, Nakua, Chase, St. Brown, like in that order for me. You can make a case for obviously Justin Jefferson at any given moment. Devontae Adams, you can make a case for him. I just think he's a little priced up for my likings here. If I'm going to pair up Stafford with Aaron Win, I'm gonna find a way to get that extra 1K and get to Nicole. Like I will do that, and then maybe do a three-man stack with Kyrie Williams. It was how I would approach a Ram stack here this week, Chris. Right, seven below 7K. Let's look at that 55 to 7K range. We got Romo Dunze at 6,600, Cortland Sutton 65, Drake London 64, Brian Thomas Jr. 62, Olave 61, McConkey 6K, Michael Pittman 5,900. I laugh when I see that. D. Higgins 5,900, McMillan, Ted McMillan 5,800, and then we got Addison 5,800. Again, it's a pretty decent range here, Chris. What do you got in this range? Who stands out? Who does not stand out? Where are you at in this range?
Brian Thomas Jr. is my number one wide receiver play of the week.
What? Wait a
Yep.
minute. You have I need convincing. I what? I you got you I'll be honest with you. That I was not expecting it. You and I don't share a player pool. We don't share anything before the show. I I was not expecting that.
Yep.
Talk to me about that. I'm all ears. Talk to me about that.
So coming out of the bye, he had that shoulder issue, but knocked him out of the game against the Rams. Liam Cohen has come out and said this is the best he has looked all season. Top that with Travis Hunter being out as well, who's been stealing some of the target share that has gone him. Hunter over the last couple of games, 14 targets, 7 targets of the last 2 games. There's a target share that's going to go to Brian Thomas Jr. I think he goes off this week. He's going to have the highest scoring week of the year against the San Francisco defense.
Ah, Brian
6,200.
Brian Thomas Jr. Look, the fact that there's no Hunter obviously makes it enticing here for Thomas Jr. I like that call. I honestly, you know what? I don't mind that call whatsoever. Um, Romo Duze to me stands out as a really strong play. The Bengals defense is trash. He's coming off another game, dominant game. He had 7 catches for 114 yards, 10 targets. Look, I know he didn't produce against the Saints. I know he struggled against Washington. He after the bye, it's been like a little bit rocky for Odunze, but 6,600 to me still very affordable for his role in this game, in this passing game. The number one wide receiver in Chicago. Everyone's talking about playing Caleb Williams. In my opinion, this is the way you go about it with Romo Duz. It is his number one pairing option, and even if you're not playing Caleb Williams, I think Odunze is firmly in play here. I giggled when I said Michael Pittman 5,900. I, th- I thought about this very long, and I made to make sure to use the correct word. And the word that came to mind, Chris, is I'm just flabbergasted with Pittman's price. Like that is absolute insane to me that he is still 5,900 on DraftKings. He's been one of the most consistent receivers in football. 14.9 DK points in all but 2 games this season, including 4 games with 19 plus DK points and 3 games with 20 plus DK points. You look at the matchup here. Steelers have given up the sixth most receiving yards, but are giving up the most receiving yards per game to opposing wide receivers. Remember, they already had a bye. A 68% catch rate, which is tied for third most. 30 fantasy points plus per game on both FanDuel and DK. 40.8 exactly on DK, 26th in coverage against opposing wide receivers, 18th in passing DVOA, 27th in DVOA against opposing wide receiver ones. Why is Michael Pittman 5,900? Like it is asinine, like to me, what this algorithm is doing. For me, Pittman is an absolute lock this week. I'm all in on him this week again. I was on him last week. He produced very good numbers. He was a great leverage play. I'm expecting far higher ownership this week because it's a great matchup. It's a great price tag, and everyone's gonna be chasing last week. I've been on Michael Pittman each and every week this season. It does not stop now, and until they don't raise his price up, I'll tell you this: he's gonna be someone I'm gravitating towards each and every week. Chris, are you stunned by this price tag, or do you understand it?
No, he should be in the $6,800 range. He should be where like Roman Dunze is. He's been more consistent than Rome.
Correct. Like I 100%. Like I honestly don't get it, dude. I for me, I think he's a very strong play this week, man. Like I absolutely, he's a core play for me, a building block, whatever you want to call it. but he's going to be in my lineup at the end of this. On Sunday, he's going to be in my lineup. There's no questions asked about that. I think getting the Los Angeles Chargers receiving group correct this week is going to be very important, right? You look at Tennessee. They have allowed the fifth most receiving yards, a league high 75% catch rate, the 11th most touchdowns, tied for that, 10th most fantasy points per game on both DK and FanDuel, fifth most fantasy points per game to outside receivers. I think that's important here. 24th in coverage, 21st in pass DVOA, 31st in DVOA against wide receiver one, 26th in DVOA against wide receiver two. We know that McConkey has been a man on fire. The volume has been there ever since you called him. I think it was against Miami, right? That's when you called him, if I'm not mistaken. Ever since you made that call, Chris, he's been on fire. He's someone that's firmly in play for me. Quentin Johnston. All right. Quentin Johnston to me is the ultimate GPP play this week. Coming off a dud of a game in a smash spot against a defense that struggles against outside receivers where he spends the majority of the time. I think Quentin Johnston is an absolute like awesome GPP play. I just absolutely love him GPPs. Not the building block, not the core play, but man, he's someone that I'm strongly considering here. It's just a matter of I'm thinking to myself, do I want to play both Vidal and Johnston in the same lineup? And then if I do, how do I bring it back? And that's kind of where I'm stuck here. But Chris, do you agree that you have to get this receiving group right this week?
100%, 1000%.
Do you have a lean on any of them?
No, I have no. You know what? To be honest, I'm probably gonna end up fading both and just try to get
With
and just hope they
Vidal?
don't go. Yeah, and just play the run game. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Hmm. Jordan Addison is
I,
another receiver in
I
this
don't
range
get me
that's
wrong.
never.
I don't get me wrong. I like Lad out of all the receivers, but I do think the path is the run game, and I think and best price tag is Vidal.
100%. To me it's just like I find myself in a situation where it's like, do I want to roster two of these guys? There's just no bring back for me. There's no
No, there's
bring
not.
back
No,
for me. Like I'm not gonna chase that DK stuff. Like yes, he scored a touchdown in week 7, and then he had 90 plus receiving yards last week. Like I just don't want to chase it. Like I get it, and he would probably be my guy if you're running it back with him when at 3,900 saves you salary. But I just don't know if I want to do that here. That's what's kind of making me like that's my reservation with playing any of the receivers. But I do think that if you're playing them, you got to get it right because I do expect one of them could go off here. Johnston will be my GPP guy. McConkey will be my cash game guy. That's how I would approach this here. Um, Jordan Addison, any interest in him? Your boy there at 5,800.
yeah, good price tag, 5,800. Like I said, you have an entire skill guy group for the first time playing together. I do think that um, there was a lot of chemistry between Addison and JJ McCarthy in preseason camp. Um, and I do think that's going to carry over. First time actually playing together in a game, so this will be interesting.
Another player, Chris, that I think I'm going to probably be invested in this week, if not all in on. And again, if I do three lineups and I have them in two, that's not all in. I get it, but um, I'm going to stack this game. I think I'm going to stack this game, and that's DK Metcalf. When you look at the Colts, they do struggle through the air. They're dealing with injuries there. They've given up the most receptions to wide receivers. They've given up the third most receiving yards, seventh most touchdowns, tied for that department, fourth most fantasy points per game to wide receivers on both FanDuel and DraftKings, 22nd in coverage against the position. Look, DK Metcalf is as boomer bust as they come. But this is a game where I think the Colts are going to win. I think they're going to be playing with a lead. And I think that look at the Steelers are going to have to rely on the passing game a little bit here. When you look at Metcalf, again, the production can be volatile, but he has that big playability. He has a touchdown in all but two games this season and has scored in all but one game since week 2, right? We haven't seen him go bananas in quite some time. Last time he went for over 100 yards and a touchdown was in week 4 against Minnesota. I think this is another week where he could go for 100 plus and a touchdown. And at 5,500, like I'm going to be very invested in this game. This is why I said earlier, balance. Look at the two guys I've talked, my two receivers that I'm very in on this week. are both sub 6K. 5,900 for Pittman, 5,500 for Metcalf. My quarterback, sub 6,500. Like we got some options here to go very balanced. I absolutely love DK Metcalf this week, man. He is in a prime spot, and we haven't seen a seeding game this season yet, and I think this is one of those games where you can see a seeding game. It's a great game environment here, um, you know, and I think that they're gonna have to pass. So I love DK Metcalf here this week, Chris. Any other receivers here in this range before we go to the value receivers?
No, I think you hit on everything. I mean, I think DK is a smash spot at 5,500.
Are you pairing up a Dart with Wandale Robinson this week? Now that look with the injury here in San Francisco, like you look at this defense, they're a little bit more vulnerable. We know the volume is going to be there. He's not a super high upside guy, but I think there's a pretty relatively safe floor with Robinson. Is he someone that you look at and stands out to you as a play and a pairing option with Dart?
No, I'll probably just play Dart by himself.
All right, let's look at the value positions. Talk to me about some value guys here that you're looking at, at the wide position. Anyone stand out to you? Anyone you're targeting?
Troy Franklin being 150, 4,900. We saw what he did last week. It is a tougher matchup against the Houston defense that's been good, but looked fantastic. 2 touchdowns last week, 8 targets. Is he taking over that Cortland Sutton wide receiver one? I think it's getting close at this point. Um, but I like that spot. I like Darnell Mooney if for some reason Drake London is ruled out yet again. Um, but other than that, I think Shamir DK is interesting at 3,900. And then the only guy I have left at 3,700 is Parker Washington, is going to slide into that wide receiver two role. We've already seen him have a little bit of a target share, 10 targets last week against the Rams. So uh, uh, Travis Hunter going to the IR, I do think Parker Washington is going to slide in. And we saw last year when he slid into the wide receiver two, wide receiver one role. He still gets a significant target share.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like I like Washington as a value play here. I think he's a nice floor option here against the Raiders. Uh I'm gonna say this. I think Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, two options there in the Colts passing game too. If you want to do a full-blown stack, two very cheap receivers. Jawan Jennings, man, I understand the production has him in there, but 7 targets in each of the last 2 games. He's too cheap. The matchup is good here for him. Another way to get exposure to San Francisco here at a very low cost. And then I agree with you, man. DK, like, yeah, I just, obviously I don't want to chase that production, but if there's anyone that we know the Tennessee Titans are going to be playing with I mean, I expect them to be playing with a hefty, they're from behind here. So again, he's someone that's in play as well. Anything else here, Chris?
No.
All right, let's jump to the tight end position. Now I'm going to be 100% with you. I normally don't pay up for the position this week, but you have Tucker Kraft in this stellar matchup against the Panthers, coming off of, I mean, great game. You have Tyler Warren in a really good matchup, Oronde Gadsden in a good matchup, and you have Brock Bowers back at what I think is very affordable price tag at 5K. I think you can make a case for each and every one of these guys. There's one of these in particular that stands out, like, I mean, a ton for me. But I want to hear your thoughts on any of these guys and if you plan on going up at the position this week.
First off, Armando Gats at 5,300 is absurd. There is no way that this man should be 5,300 after 2 games. There's no way. So he's already crossed off my line. Tucker Kraft, yeah, he was great last week. Busted play where he went for what 50 plus for that touchdown 60. So I get the play of Tucker Kraft. Probably won't get there. The guy that I love here is Tyler Warren. It's just hard to. He's literally a free square at 5,500. I do think that he's going to have a massive game. Um, the guy that stands out for me, if you're really gonna pay up, is George Kittle, 4,800. Um, Not a ton of targets over the last couple games coming back from the IR, but he did score a touchdown. We like the San Francisco side. We like this game. I think George Kittle is a fine play. Other than that, I think I'm probably going to go down. I like Dalton Kincaid at 4K in a game where they're going to have to throw. I think this game is going to be way back and forth. We know how high scoring these games typically get. I like him the most at probably out of all the tight ends, believe it or not.
Yeah, and we know that this is a Chiefs defense that gives a lot, of production in the middle of the field. They do give an 82% catch rate to the tight end position, pretty large number there. But I'm gonna say this, like for me, it's the guy I was alluding to, man, is Tyler Warren. Like, I mean, he's just in a smash spot. I don't know. I'm going to do my best to get up to him. I really am going to do my best to get up to him. I don't know if my roster construction will allow me to do it, but let's look at some of these numbers here. So, Pittsburgh, they've given up the third most receiving yards to the tight end position, but they're giving up the most receiving yards per game. They had a bye week. I've been saying this a lot this podcast. I just want you guys to remember that. A 74% catch rate, second most receiving touchdowns tied in the NFL. Second most fantasy points per game in all formats, 23rd in DVOA against opposing tight ends. You look at Tyler Warren, and he's just been money, man. Like he has been money. A touchdown in three of his last four games. All right. 14 plus DK points in four of his last five games. There's a solidified floor, an incredible ceiling. I don't think we've seen his ceiling, right? If we're being 100% honest with you, I don't think we've seen his ceiling. And again, this is an offense that I like. A lot of people might play Jonathan Taylor because he is the best running back in football. I like the idea of targeting the passing game again this week. I feel like that could be a leverage play, right? We talked about this last week. I'm going right back to that. I'm like my position stands that firm with this passing attack this week. I love Tyler Warren, man. Like for me, if I don't get to him, we're gonna have props. We're gonna talk, props, and we're gonna talk bets soon. He is. I'm going to recommend a prop on him this week. So if I don't have exposure to him, that is how we're going to bank in on Tyler Warren. But in my opinion, he's the best play at the position without question this week. Having Bowers back at 5K, I think that he's a very good play this week. I don't anticipate him being that popular. Where do you have? I don't know if you have your ownership projections in front of you, but I do have them in front of me, and I kind of wanted to compare because I have Bowers at sub 10% ownership this week, and I just wanted to see if you have it the same. Because if he's going to be sub 10%, I feel like he's a great GPP play.
Yeah, I am a sub 10%.
Yeah.
5K, man, that's a smash spot. Jacksonville's been awful against tight ends, giving up almost 80 receiving yards, 18.2 fantasy points per game over the last four.
Yeah, so like I mean, not many people are going to be on them. Everyone's going to be, kind of hesitant. I think a lot of people are going to be playing like, who do you have as your highest? I have Tucker Kraft as the highest projected tight end. Like I
Uh,
like the matchup. I like him. He's been great, but I will take the ownership and discount and price discount on Bowers over Kraft. Like if we're being 100%, but I have him at 16% myself at Tucker Kraft.
I have Kittle as the highest.
You have Kittle as the highest. Okay. Well, I have Kittle as the top five on my board at
Yeah,
11%.
Kraft right
Um,
behind him.
okay, there you go. So it's probably going to be Kittle Craft to some capacity. And I also have Theo Johnson. I don't know why the hell he's popping, but I have Theo Johnson. Well, actually, I know why he's popping. Um, but he's another one that is popping for me from an ownership perspective, Chris. I'm going to keep a close eye on Cole Kmet news, right? Like I think that's important here this week. If Cole Kmet's out, Loveland is someone that you talked about last week. Loveland is someone that I think can be considered this week at 3,300. He had five targets last week against the Ravens there. Someone that could see what a handful of targets here against the Bengals. Bengals just trash defense. We really don't have to get too much into the nitty gritty of their defense, but they're really bad. You mentioned Kincaid there. Anyone else that you're looking at this week, or do you find this being a very straightforward week at tight end?
How pissed off do you think the Bears are that they took Loveland over? They took Loveland over Warren. They got to be pretty pissed, right?
They also took Caleb over Drake May, right? Like, so talk about bad decisions after bad decisions
Yeah,
uh from the Bears. Yeah, dude, like it sucks, right? It's good for the Colts, but it sucks for the Bears.
yeah.
Um, so
Uh,
yeah,
the only person I have is Noah Fant, who has seen pretty significant increase in targets with Flacco under center. So he would be the only other cheap option that I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah, no, that's a good call there. Look, Theo Johnson's popping for me in my model. I understand why. I'm personally not going there. I'm look for me. It's really I'm gonna try to find a way to get up to Brock Bowers or Tyler Warren. Like that's kind of where I've gravitated towards. If I have to go a little lower, I think I'll end up like you mentioned in Kincaid to have some exposure to that game. He burned me last week, dude. He truly burned me last week. Um, I fuck, man. He really screwed me last week there. And then if you really want to go like super cheap, like I mentioned Theo Johnson, and I will point out it's not a great matchup, but I think it's going to be a good game script for him. And that's Juwan Johnson. Someone that at the beginning of the season I was not much on, but he has 15 targets and 10 receptions over his last two games. Interested to see what his role and how the quarterback change is going to impact the production there for Juwan Johnson. But definitely someone that if you're looking to, save some money at the tight end position, he is someone to consider. This, of course, is if Komet is out, like Loveland's probably going to be the cheap guy. I pretty much, put in that in my lineup there. So just keep that in mind. Um, man, seeing Hawkinson at 3,400, it's just so tempting. But I can't click it. I cannot click it. Are you clicking that button?
I don't know yet. That's a tough one for me. Probably not.
Yeah. All right. Any other tight ends?
Um, no, Mayer's out with Bowers back. Not much I really love here. The cheap. You made a good point with Theo Johnson. I think if you're going to play Jackson Dart, he's the one that you pair him up with.
Yeah, I think Wandale or Dart are the two guys. Like, I mean, or Theo, right? Like, those are the two guys. You can also do it with Tyron Tracy. But I think Theo's very interesting there. All right,
Yeah.
you know the drill, Chris. It's defense time. So that means we're scrolling all the way down. We're moving, working our way slightly, and then stopping at some point. How far up did you have to scroll this week before making a stop?
Um, the funny, as much as I hate with how bad they've been, Minnesota at 2,200 is kind of where I stopped at first. Um, they've played relatively okay against Detroit. Um, they did have a they have given up over 30 points the last two games, but I do think that this is a being a division game that Minnesota at 2,200 they have the upside to get enough sacks on Jared Goff. They just have to control the middle of the field. That's where I stopped. Number one. Number two, I stopped was I think it was Buffalo at 2,800 is probably where I stopped against Kansas City, and then Houston.
Yeah, this is another week where the cheap defenses. I think these sites are listening to the podcast, Chris. I truly
Yeah,
do because
people
they've
are
made
raising our cheap guys.
right. Like they don't give us those gimmies anymore, man. Like look, we won't do that anymore. Just stop. We won't advise to do that. Just give us some cheap defenses, please. Like this is absurd. Um, I'll be honest. I stopped at Houston. Against Denver. They're at home. We know that Houston has a very good defense. Um, I respect the shit out of this Denver offense, but Bo Nix has been erratic at times this season. They look like they're finally clicking, so it's very difficult. But that's kind of where I'm stopping right now. Outside of that, like I, Denver's defense at Houston, we know that there's offensive line problems there in Houston. I know Houston's offense looked good last week. They're getting Nico Collins back. They're getting healthier, but the offensive line remains a big liability. We know that this is a good Denver defense that can rush and apply pressure there, but they're going to be without Sertan, which is a big loss. So like that's difficult, right? Like so, um, I think I'm gonna end up with Houston. If I need to save more, man, I will let kind of the rest of my construction dictate to where I'm going. But if I am able to pick a defense where I'm going to stick with, it's going to be 2,900. The Houston defense there, man. I just look at it and I think that they're a good defense. And I know that Bo Nix can be erratic, man. So that's where I'm at with defenses. I agree with you. It's not, we haven't had those fun, good defenses that we like to target very cheap there. So, all right, let's move on, Chris, and let's talk about what bets you got cooking this week, though. So tell me what bets you got cooking this week, and then after the bets, we'll talk some survivor picks.
So you game picks or you want
Well, you whatever you prefer. You could do survivor pick or give me your bet, whichever you want first, and then we'll do the other one next. You pick.
So I think for Survivor, I'm probably gonna end up going with the Chargers this week, um, being my favorite one. As far as regular bets, I do like uh, Denver going into Houston. Denver is a +1.5. Did you see that?
Denver is a +1.5. Yes, I saw that.
So
I like Houston in that game,
you like the Houston side?
but not in a bet. Yes, I think Houston wins that game. I like them. I'm not betting it, but I do think it's going to be very close though.
Okay. Yeah, I like the Denver side there. So those are my two kind of locks for me and my picks as far as Chargers is my Chargers are going to be my elimination team, and then Denver is +1.5 there.
Yeah, so for me, Survivor, my run ended last week, by the way. My run like the Dolphins can't do shit right for me.
Yeah.
They can't have a good season, and then the only time that I'm picking or the one time I choose the Falcons against them, they burn me and beat the Falcons. So my Survivor pool fun ended last week, unfortunately. If someone out there is doing a Survivor pool mid-season, let me know, man. I'll jump in. But all right, the Rams for me are pretty much my favorite, team here at home against the Saints. I think the Chargers on the road against the Titans are another good pick. And then the Packers would be my third option at home against the Carolina Panthers. It's kind of where I'm at survivor pool pick wise. Betting wise, I said it, man. We're gonna target this Tyler Warren guy one way or another. All right, so I got two for you guys. Last week I went 49ers +2. That did not work out. Where I started 2-0 yesterday. There I had a couple buddies of mine. They reached out to me and gave them some picks. 2-0 in the Dolphins game with them. Um, so on the season we're 3-6 here on the show. I'm gonna give you guys two this week. I'm gonna go with the Colts. Right, they're them winning here in Pittsburgh. I think they're giving what 3 points. I'm going to take the Colts -3 here, and I'm going to take a Tyler Warren anytime touchdown at +140 on all sides. I mentioned it before, man. You look at the Steelers defense, very generous to the tight end position. You look at what Tyler Warren has done, scoring a touchdown in three of his last four games. Very consistent there. For me, anytime touchdown at +140 seems like a very good bargain there for Tyler Warren in the matchup at hand. And then again, Colts -3. I like them. I think the Colts winning has been a good strategy this year. We got to keep that going, baby. We got to keep that going, Chris. Anything else here you got going on, or anything else you want to talk about before we get on out of here, Chris?
Nope, just got the college football live stream tonight. DK college football article, GPP article, and then the live stream Sunday at noon.
Yes, sir. Sunday noon Eastern time. Chris Rose, myself. We talk all things DFS. We go over things game by game. We have all of the updated news, the inactive, the actives, any weather situation, anything that you guys need to know. Make sure you're checking that out every noon Eastern over there at fantasyguru.com. Of course, you can find my work there as well. You can find me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram and threads at Mind of Marsal, and then on TikTok at Mind of Marsal Pod. We discussed a lot of things here today. All right, we gave our Thursday night football thoughts. We went over the weekend slate here, matchups we're exploiting, give some picks, give some survivor plays, some bets, all of that good stuff here on the Mind of Marsal podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's journey through the Mind of Marsal. For the great Chris Rose, I'm Armando Marsal. See you guys next week.